Welcome to episode 3 of No Power Panel. I'm one of your hosts, Noam.
And I'm Isaac.
Thanks for joining us. Isaac, when we started, I wasn't quite sure what to expect, but having hundreds of people view each of our episodes across various platforms right away was not on my bingo card, but that's what seems to be
Well,
happening.
I don't know if it's hundreds of people or just my mom hundreds of times, but
Or
that's
your
yet
mom
to be.
hundreds of times. Whatever. Thanks for anyone who's listening. This week we're gonna do things slightly differently because debate point has come in the campaign, and in order to kind of give some thoughts before the debates and then be able to have a more fulsome conversation about them afterwards while they're still relevant before the long weekend coming up, we figured what we would do is record a shorter than usual episode now to release at our regular time. And then what we'll do, just kind of going over um, the current state of the race so that we're live in the moment with that, and then just briefly touching on what we think each party should do, and where we think the performances of the leaders kind of are currently. Um, and then what we'll do is on Friday you'll get a bonus full length episode that day, where we'll do all of our regular segments, and we'll give a kind of in-depth take on what actually went on to happen in the debates. So thanks for joining us for this part 1 of 2 this week. So with that, we're going to move into our horse race disco segment
With a nice new animation.
with a nice new animation. All right. So I've got 338 pulled up here. I wonder if I can just maybe what we'll do is while we're talking about it, we can bring it in so that we can kind of view where we're at currently. There we go. So currently, as things stand, the Liberals are projected to win 190, according to 338. The Conservatives are at 124. The Bloc Québécois is projected at 20. The NDP at 7, and the Greens at 2. These are just the top line numbers.
Yeah.
If we go into kind of,
And
go ahead.
I think at a top line level, like a lot of, online discourse, it's like the right has been trying to say, the race is tightening, and they were using Nanos as an example of a tightening race because Nanos, Main Street, and Liaison are 3 pollsters that are doing like daily tracking this election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a while, they were trying to grab on to the fact that Nanos was showing a tightening from about 10 points to about 4 points, and use that as an example, even though on aggregate, nothing was really showing any evidence of tightening. Now Nanos has shown that the Liberals are back, like with about a 7-point lead, I think. So it's untightening in Nanos' tracker, but now Main Street is tightening, and they're trying
Yeah.
to now jump on. Oh,
For
well,
the
Main Street's
first
now
time
showing
today,
high or Conservatives
yeah.
leading in Main Street's tracker. I do think it's kind of early to jump on one tracker, especially there's a lot of noise on these like 3-day rolling sample trackers. It is the first time they've had the Conservatives leading, but if you still look at the aggregate, like at the same time, that's one good poll came out for the Conservatives. and then about 3 came out not so good. So there's still about 5 or 6% down on the aggregate. So I don't
The
think if we
aggregate
look at
definitely
the
does show
model,
that. I think
I don't think we
the
can
other
say.
interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, I don't think we can say definitively that there's been any tightening in the race outside of like statistical noise, if I'm being honest, from what I see.
I'm looking at the same thing. I think the one thing that I would note that's interesting with that Main Street result is that over this last couple of days with the different 3-day rolling polls, the ones that are showing and the other posters that have come out in the last couple of days, the ones that are showing a little bit of a tightening race, Main Street showing the Conservatives 2 points ahead in what they put out today, are ones where their methodology is predominantly online, versus some of the ones that are still showing larger leads for the Liberals are other formats. We can't do anything. I mean, Main Street shows a difference between what it was showing with their online poll previously and what they're showing now. So some of it needs to be considered otherwise. But I do wonder if some of what we're seeing is that generational divide that we've been talking about playing out in some of these polls based on where they're being taken, where the
Yeah,
samples are being taken.
that's definitely a possibility. I do think it's hard to tell because, like, if the pollsters are, taking into account demographic, data, like, it doesn't matter if your sample has more, like, younger people in it. Like, if they're accounting for past, like, turnout and, like, actual proportional representation that is younger, like, I don't think
Mhm.
that should, impact.
From a purely
I
age perspective, no. My
Yeah,
thing is though is like, does it say something also about the kinds of people that are answering these online, even
yeah,
if
yeah,
age wise, right? It's
yeah.
there's and the reality is we won't know what the picture actually looks like until election day. This is all just
And we
performative
will never
at this
know
point.
what the picture actually looked like today. Like, that's the thing, is, like, we
Absolutely.
don't actually have an election today, so we can't even say, like, what the picture looks out like today, definitively. One more point about the Main Street poll is that, like, Main Street has their own model as well. Like, they do a poll, and then
Mhm.
based on their regionals, they have, like, a model just based on their one tracking poll. And, they still have the Liberals winning a majority in their tracking poll, based on their regionals. So they have the
That vote
Conservatives winning by
efficiency.
2, but they have, because they have basically the Conservatives crushing so much and winning by such huge margins in Saskatchewan and Alberta, and they're still seeing leads for the Liberals in Ontario and Quebec and Atlantic Canada. It still has the Liberals, I think, getting 178 seats, even in a situation
Mhm.
where, they're losing the popular vote by 2 based on their regionals from that same Main Street poll. So, like, I think if you're conservative and looking for any signal that there could be some slight tightening, I guess you can squint and see it, but it's still not. To me, it looks more stable and than tightening, and it's not that positive. But at
I
least it's not
think
getting worse.
Absolutely. I think ultimately stability is like with the Ontario campaign. Stability is very much becoming a theme of this election right now. Um, that can change. Probably the biggest opportunity that the various opposition leaders have to create that little bit of a difference comes from um possibly the debates this week.
Yeah,
um but I think that really, like, if you're Pierre Poilievre, Jagmeet Singh, or Yves Francois Blanchet, or even Jonathan Pedno, um I think that's how you say his name, uh were that's your last opportunity to create this kind of change. And at that point, I think that going into this weekend, it's the long weekend, families gather for Easter, families gather for Passover, for various just big family meals. And I really do think that things are going to cement going forward from the next couple of days versus what we have had previously. And so the debates might be actually make or break it this time. And I think we're going to be in a situation where either something dramatic happens and one of the parties is able to surge a little bit, or things are going to kind of look still a little boring when we're talking again on Friday. And that's going to be where things are settling.
Yeah, I feel like that's, I guess, will bring us into talking about what we want, like what each party would want to see from its leader in the debates to shake things up, because there's
Mhm.
not many like external pushes that have happened so far to unsettle things, since the campaign started. Nothing seems to be really sticking or causing any type of momentum one way or another. And
Well, except
um,
for the liberals.
yeah. So since the writ has dropped, essentially, it like
Mhm.
within like we're looking at the same kind of state of the race as we saw, 2.5 weeks ago. So or even 3 weeks ago. So, you know, we need to like the other parties want to see something to upset that kind of state of the race because it's not playing in their favor right now.
Okay, so let's just briefly go through the various leaders, because quite honestly, like, we can say the other parties want to see that kind of upset, and it's absolutely true. But and this is kind of why I wanted to touch on each of the leaders, is I'm actually not sure what each of the leaders can do right now that would create that kind of thing, right?
Hmm.
Because, for example, if we talk about Pierre Poilievre first, he's he's like, people already know what Pierre Poilievre debating looks like from over 2 decades in the House of Commons, from his leadership race, from just watching him as the conservative leader for the last couple of years. He's a great debater. He's a very effective communicator, and none of that seems to be moving things at this point, right? The ability to give a great attack line isn't working currently. It's worked for him in the past. Maybe in a debate setting it's different, but is there anything you think he can do that would shake things fundamentally in the state of the race?
Well, I think the problem is that the problem he's going to face, and the problem he's faced this whole election, is that yeah, he's a great debater and he's a bulldog, and he can deliver his lines effectively, and he doesn't seem to get that rattled. And it's everyone, he's now known. He's a known entity. The
Mhm.
electorate knows him. They're not going to be, I think, surprised. I don't think he's going to surprise anyone. I think that's the only thing that can change things. If he comes out and is exactly how he's been, no matter how much that's been able to get huge amounts of support within the Conservative Party and generate a lot of enthusiasm for people who are going to be voting for him, I don't think that's going to be enough to broaden his support, right? Like if he just comes out and it's exactly what everyone expects from him, and all the conservatives will run to, Twitter, and will run to Truth Social or wherever they're talking, and will say, Pierre won this debate. He was amazing. He owned Carney like a little baby. Oh, Carney didn't know how to respond to these things. He was ready for him and he attacked him. It's like, okay, but people just don't like him. Like, that's his problem, right? It's
Yeah.
like at this point, he doesn't have good favorability numbers. His people generally, I think he could win like like get a majority of the electorate on like policy, if this was like about policy. Like I think people agree, like in terms of where people support him and where his support was coming from when they were doing so well, was on like, he was discussing cost of living, he was discussing the housing crisis, he was talking about cutting your taxes, and generally those are popular stances. So it's like he's gonna have a certain amount of support open to him to capitalize on. But I think if people are watching him and it's just like, who's this smarmy little guy? Like they're not gonna like change their mind. They've seen him do this shtick.
No.
So I don't think if he just does the same shtick, I don't think it's gonna be enough.
So it's something, yeah, I agree. And I think that his real issue, I think you've nailed it, is that people don't like him. He isn't popular, and people were willing to vote for him because they didn't want Trudeau, is the
Mhm.
reality. Now
And
Carney's given them another option. He's come in. He's actually done what liberals have traditionally done to New Democrats in federal elections. Um, and he's actually taken a lot of Poilievre's policy playbook and tweaked it a little bit and adopted it as liberal policy. And so he's cut off a lot of the policy attacks that Poilievre was able to make quite successfully against Trudeau, by just coming in and saying, "Yeah, I'm a center right-ish liberal leader." And even so, the other parties have fallen in behind him just in an effort to stop Poilievre. And so it's an interesting place that Poilievre has been put in. And I think you're right. I think that the only option that he has is coming in and doing something different. If he came in and wasn't the attack dog, reflected a more prime ministerial stance, um, talked from the perspective of kind of an important part of Team Canada, um, made every single answer about taking on the Trump administration, I think that that's probably what would get some people's attention, that might have been floating to the conservative or to the liberals from the conservatives, but really don't want to vote for the liberals, which is Carney's problem, is that a lot of the liberal support is begrudging. A lot of the liberal support is going, we really don't want to reward your party after the last 10 years, but you're an adult in the room and that feels safe to us. So I guess that's where we're going to go to.
Oh, yeah, I think that's what Carney has to do, is differentiate himself from and what he's been trying to do and what he did when he came into office, when he, cut the carbon tax and got rid of the capital gains tax changes and all these things, is he's basically has to act. What the conservatives will do is they'll attack, I think, on the lost liberal decade. He was a
Yeah.
advisor to Trudeau, and Carney just has to stay the course of basically what they've been doing this whole campaign, I think, and just like continue signaling that he's not Trudeau, and also that he is uniquely qualified. That's why people like him. That's why he has support, is because they see him as like this, like, uniquely qualified individual for a time like this. Lean
Who
on
doesn't
his
talk
like
like a
national
politician?
relationship. Yeah. Yeah. And I think he can't get dragged into the like political, fight. Like
Mm-hmm.
let it be like he said, she said, I'm this, I'm that. Like it needs to just he needs to just seem like he's like above the fray. Like
Right.
present like
He
he's
need,
like this figure that's like above it all. Like he's not a
yeah.
part of the dogfight. Like they're gonna be coming at him and just like not even like acknowledging that like it's bad. It's not what you want to see, but strategically, it's probably what he's going to be advised to do. Is act and present this like image that he's like not even like a part of it. You know what I mean? Like he's this figure that's outside of politics that's just going to be this like steady hand on the wheel that's not going to get dragged into this kind of like partisan bickering, I guess.
Absolutely. If I were advising Carney in preparation for this debate, I would be saying to him, don't face any of the other leaders. Face your podium head on. Talk directly to the camera. Square the camera. Don't turn and face any of the other leaders while they're doing their back and forth and their regular debate kind of thing. Speak directly to the voter and have everything that comes out of your mouth be that way. Don't rise to any of the nonsense attacks that they're going to try and bait you with. Don't do any of the back and forth we see him getting into trouble with the media doing. Be above it all, you're right, and be prime minister when you're on that stage. Be the prime minister, don't be the liberal leader. And that's the frame of mind that I think I would put him into going out there.
Above it all, but not condescending, because they're trying to attack him on like when he's talking to media. Sometimes he like acts dismissive, or like the question's not even like worthy of a response. Like still respond to the question, seem like engaged, but not like getting into that fight. And I think a lot of the attacks from the Conservatives and the NDP this past week have been, he's avoiding paying taxes. He's used tax havens with the companies he's managed, which have avoided money going back into the Canadian government. And like, how is this someone, you want to lead the government who's been avoiding, with the companies he's ran, like has been trying to strategically avoid paying taxes. And I think essentially Carney has to act like his time at Brookfield like doesn't exist. Like, and I know it's bad because like these are like legitimate attacks, but it's like he was the governor of the Bank of Canada, and he was the governor of the Bank of England. And like if they bring up like things that Brookfield did while he was like, working there, it's like just like not even acknowledge it and like act like that isn't even like relevant to you. I think
he needs to act like when he was working for Brookfield, he was like half retired. His name was on the paper, but he wasn't actually on hand making
like
these
what
kinds
he's
of
done,
decisions.
like what he's done for dismissing his role consulting the Liberal government, actually. So like
exactly,
how, like,
right? Like I've joined a board meeting a couple of times a year and gave my thoughts on the latest economic situation. So here's my question about Jagmeet Singh. Because if you're Jagmeet Singh going into this debate, you need to at the same time get some of your vote that has gone to the Liberals back, but also not piss off the progressive base that is so scared of Poilievre that they're going for Carney. Right? And it's this balance beam that he's been having to walk this entire campaign. How does he achieve both of those goals? If you were advising Jagmeet Singh going into this debate, what would be your advice on how to go about doing that? Because what he's been doing so far isn't working.
I think he needs to attack Poilievre, not Carney, because for the exact reason you just mentioned, like the voters that were voting for Singh and now have moved to vote for Carney, that voter base, that let's say the NDP's at 8% right now, they were at 18%. So that 10% of the population that might have supported the NDP but is now saying they're going to vote for Carney, you are not going to win them back by attacking Carney. You've tried it for 2 weeks. I'm sorry, but like I agree with you on many of the things you're attacking Carney on. Like I do, like the responsibility he's had at Brookfield, great. The removing the capital gains tax and the carbon tax, like I don't not removing the capital gains tax, revoting the change they made to the capital gains taxation. I agree with all those lines of attack, but you're not going to win back those voters by attacking Carney. They will get mad at you. I can guarantee it. It's like you're splitting the left. You attacking Carney is just gonna help Poilievre. Like it's not helpful. If they've already switched their opinion that they're now gonna support Carney, you attacking Carney isn't gonna make them be like, oh, I didn't realize he was that bad. I'm now supporting you. Like you have to give like the average person credit enough that like they've weighed both options and now they're supporting Carney to beat Poilievre. And because they see him as the better option. So what you have to do to try to win support back, which from those same voters who are like softly supporting the Liberals right now, is provide yourself as the better option and make it clear, like they've been doing the last week, that like if you have an NDP incumbent, you like them. The NDP incumbent MPs have very high approval ratings. We have a great team. Like, this is like you support them. Having that person in parliament is going to help deliver these things for you. And it will be one less conservative if you're in an NDP, conservative, like making it clear that you actually like in 2019, Jagmeet Singh had a very good debate. Like the NDP rose at the end of that campaign from where they were looking at going, and he has to like just stay the course in terms of like saying what I'm gonna deliver you. And yes, Poilievre is very dangerous. Attack Poilievre and seem like a fighter, like you're actually like very scared of a Poilievre. He has to agree. He has to agree and validate the viewers that a Poilievre prime ministership is very scary. It is very scary.
Is the worst case scenario.
It is the worst case scenario. I'm not that, a liberal majority is the worst case scenario. You're not going to win people back by scaring them over that, but you have to like be that person for some people. I think that's how you're going to win back some voters, is being that kind of that identity and that fighter. Because Mark Carney, I don't think should be the fighter in this situation. And I think Jagmeet might have to be then.
The reality is that he needs to be Carney's attack dog in this situation. And it's not going to be what happens. His instinct, Jagmeet Singh's instinct, is that he still wants to go for the biggest hit. And everyone in his ear is going to be telling him that that's to go after Mark Carney. And he'll still, have a line or two against Poilievre here or there. But I'm very, very concerned that his biggest instinct is going to be to try and attack the Liberals. And Liberal record of not doing enough of what he wanted. And that isn't the direction that he should be going on.
So I guess we will see on Wednesday and Thursday if they take these strategies. We'll see what strategies they do take, and we'll be back on Friday to evaluate everyone's performances in the debate and see if it has any impact at all, or if we're just going to stay in the same state for the rest of the election until Election Day. And early voting starts on Friday. So there's not much time left.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to cast my vote on Friday. All right. Thanks so much for joining us. This was episode 3 of No Power Panel. Have a great day.
Bye.